Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord.
On November 22nd, Air Force One touched down in Dallas. President Kennedy and the First Lady hopped into a slick 1961 Lincoln Continental convertible for a ride to a luncheon at the Dallas Market Center. The motorcade's route through Dallas was carefully chosen to put Kennedy right in the spotlight. At 12:30 p.m. CST, the president's limo rolled into Daley Plaza. As the limo turned left onto Elm Street from Houston Street, cruising past the Texas Book Depository, Kennedy began to greet the crowds with a wave. The tranquility was shattered by the sound of 3 gunshots, at least 2 of those bullets striking the president, causing his head to snap back and to the left.
Something has happened in the motorcade route. There's numerous people running up.
Back and to the left. 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 Which, by the way, that action you see Kennedy's head do in the Zapruder film, caused by a bullet coming from up there.
As of the time of recording, it has been 60 years since American President John F. Kennedy was assassinated in Dallas, Texas. And I wanted to take a moment of your time to talk about the way it affected TV and film. The first show of note which it had a direct impact on was an unusual one. Less than 24 hours after the president's death, while the bullet which was heard around the world was still ringing, William Hartnell's doctor was stepping into the TARDIS for the first time.
Frankly, I don't understand your attitude.
Oh, yours leaves a lot to be desired.
Will you open the door?
There's nothing in there.
Then what are you afraid to show us?
Afraid? Oh, go away.
Because of the press coverage overwhelming the airwaves, people failed to tune in to the pilot episode of a show which would later become the longest running science fiction program in TV history. The introductory episode was repeated the following week before episode 2, allowing viewers to get up to speed on a 4-part story.
One event dwarfed all others, of course, in the last few weeks of the year. But 1963 as a whole has been a year that has made us sharply conscious of death.
The flagship comedy show at the height of the 60s satire boom was That Was the Week That Was, which was known for its jabs at the establishment. But on the week of Kennedy's death, they decided to forgo humour completely and opted for a tribute, which with 60 years of hindsight feels incredibly mawkish.
A young man rode with his head held high under the Texas sun.
The assassination itself was eventually satirised by David Frost in the film he produced, The Rise and Rise of Michael Rimmer. Scripted by Peter Cook, Graham Chapman, John Cleese and the director Kevin Billington, it follows the ascension of the data analyst of the title, Michael Rimmer. Using data manipulation and an oily charm, he raises to the ranks of British Prime Minister and then dictator, whereupon the only way to get rid of him is with a bullet. It is a sharp satire whose theatrical release was delayed a full year through fear that it would influence an election. As a result, it missed its target audience and never got a theatrical release in America.
I'm sorry, I can't go through with this because I can't get it off my mind, Allison. It's obsessing me.
Oh, I'm getting tired of it. I need your attention.
But it doesn't make any sense. He drove past the book depository, and the police said conclusively that it was an exit wound. So how is it possible for Oswald to have fired from 2 angles at once? It doesn't make sense.
Alvy.
I'll tell you this. He was not marksman enough to hit a moving target at that range. But if there was a second assassin, that's it.
We've been through this.
They recovered the shells from that rifle.
Okay. All right. Then what are you saying now? That everybody on the Warren Commission is in on this conspiracy, right?
Well, why not?
The assassination of JFK was such a part of the world's collective consciousness that it seeped in everywhere. That was a clip from the Woody Allen romantic comedy Annie Hall. And what he's talking about is one of the many conspiracy theories surrounding Kennedy's death.
What makes you so convinced that Lee Harvey Oswald did not act alone?
Well, I was in the infantry. I saw men blown away. I saw them by rifle blast and by bomb. But, you know, I resort always to the basics, like common sense, your own eyes. There is this wonderful document called the Zapruder film that shows you the time frame and shows you what the shots were doing, step by step. And we estimate, the people in the community, 5 shots, maybe 6. And you show in the kill shot, Kennedy is going back and to the left, very clearly. The shot has to come from the front because he reacts, he goes back. And now they've put scientific coding on it and called it all kinds of things, but that doesn't work. Nor does the magic bullet, the single bullet that wounds Connolly and Kennedy 7 times.
This is the film director Oliver Stone, who in my opinion is the main reason the conspiracy theories around this event are still alive. He directed the big-budget, star-studded movie JFK.
The magic bullet enters the president's back, headed downward at an angle of 17 degrees. It then moves upward in order to leave Kennedy's body from the front of his neck, wound number 2, where it waits 1.6 seconds, presumably in midair, where it turns right, then left, and continues into Connolly's body at the rear of his right armpit, wound number 3. The bullet then heads downward at an angle of 27 degrees, shattering Connolly's 5th rib and exiting from the right side of his chest, wound number 4. The bullet then turns right and re-enters Connolly's body at his right wrist, wound number 5.
I don't believe that the movie JFK shows the facts as presented to the court, which is one of the liberties drama is allowed to take. Never let the truth get in the way of a good story. And this is a really good story. So good, in fact, that it would also be parodied.
According to your story, Hernandez passes you and starts walking up the ramp. Then you say you were struck on the right temple. The spit then proceeds to ricochet off the temple, striking Newman between the 3rd and the 4th rib. The spit then came off the rib, made a right turn, hitting Newman in the right wrist, causing him to drop his baseball cap. The spit then splashed off the wrist, pauses in midair, mind you, makes a left turn, and lands on Newman's left thigh. That is one magic loogie.
You think there are multiple shooters?
Yes. And one of the reasons why I believe that is because of the formation of the single bullet theory. And the single bullet theory was formed because the fact that they had to account for one bullet that hit the underpass, ricocheted off, and put some man in the hospital. And that before that, they did not have an explanation for why all of these bullet holes, all these wounds, were in all these different people's bodies.
Joe Rogan, as any fan would already know, is not the sort of person to let a conspiracy theory pass unscrutinized. JFK is a particular bugbear of his.
The other reason why I'm inclined to believe there's a conspiracy was the fact that they found that bullet on Connolly's gurney when they brought him into the hospital. It's too convenient, and the bullet itself is fairly pristine. Now, knowing as much as I know about bullets from personal experience of hunting, you can't hit anything with a bullet. I pulled a lot of bullets out of animals. When you shoot an animal and you hit bone, those bullets, they distort brutally. I mean, they don't look like that after they go through 2 people and hit all sorts of bone. That's the bullet that came out of Connolly's body, or Connolly's gurney, excuse me. And that's the bullet that they're attributing to this single bullet theory. If you look at the path of the bullet that goes through Connolly, or goes through Kennedy and then goes through Connolly, that to me is not unbelievable. It's not unbelievable.
That one is. But you got to look at the other one.
But even that one. But no. See what I'm saying? Even that one is not unbelievable. It is believable to me because I know that bullets do strange things when they hit things.
Right, but you got to combine that with the fact that the bullet came out fairly pristine, which means it didn't actually go through a kind of a bouncy path like that.
Right.
It went through a straight path. This diagram is from
a conspiracy theorist book.
Essentially.
Yes. But the thing
there are
is,
other diagrams that will show the actual path with him. Like, they've got their butts there on the same level, and you know that Kennedy was actually sitting above
elevated.
Connolly.
Yes.
This is a Mannlicher Kakano rifle, the exact make and model as the one Lee Harvey Oswald used. It's bolt action and needs to be cocked between every shot. Now, Vincent Bugliosi and other rational folks say that the gunman actually had as much as 8 seconds. But for this test, we'll let the nuts have the 5.6 seconds they claim. So can 3 shots be fired in 5.6 seconds? Teller, time me. Fire, cock, aim, fire, cock, aim, fire. What are we at? 3.45 seconds. That was easy, and I had no Marine training. Next, we'll put some real live bullets into this rifle and show you how Kennedy's head, through basic principles of physics, would have jerked toward the shot rather than forward. Dr. Louis explained that a bullet penetrating a skull doesn't transfer much of its energy to the head. It's a tiny hole, slides right in. The brain doesn't present much resistance, and when the bullet pops out the other side, it pulls a lot of brain, or in this case, melon goo, with it. The bullet and goo make a little jet blast that pushes the melon head in the opposite direction. Watch. Second gunman, my aching ass.
There are many things to like about the movie JFK. Most notably is the universally top-rate performances from the all-star cast. The standout being Gary Oldman as Lee Harvey Oswald.
I mean, I do have the advantage of having been up at the window with the rifle in the book depository and looked through the sight at the route that he took. And at the time, I thought to myself, no way. How on earth could anyone achieve this? I've since recently watched a documentary where they put this theory forward that he, in fact, indeed was the lone gunman, and it convinced me. It had me turning it around.
It also features what I believe to be John Candy's only dramatic role in a feature film, as the slippery New Orleans attorney Dean Andrews.
The cat's stealing you. The oyster shucking you, I told him. You got the right ta-ta, but the wrong ho-ho. Boyfriend is not sharp. Scout's honor. And you can tell him I said so.
Well, I don't know what he's up to. He's picking me like chicken, shucking me like corn, stewing me like an oyster. I mean, he ain't putting nothing down but air.
It's quite accurate, isn't it? If you were looking for a grown-up adult courtroom drama, then you could do much worse than this movie. Personally, I believe it to be Oliver Stone's best movie by a country mile. Just don't watch it with the expectation of understanding the case better. And while we're on the subject of revisionist history, let's look at a couple of fictional portrayals of the dead president.
Nice landing, Crichton. That was about as smooth as Egyptian whiskey.
This, to my mind, is the last great episode of Red Dwarf. It's called Ticket to Ride. The crew of Starbug have lost their supplies of curry, so Lister hatches a plan to journey back in time on a hunt for Indian cuisine. They land in a Texas book depository on the 22nd of November 1963 and accidentally knock Lee Harvey Oswald out of the window, thwarting the assassination attempt and altering the timeline. They decide to correct history, but because of their interference, Lee Harvey Oswald has to shoot from a higher floor, for which he cannot make the fatal shot. They decide that they need a second gunman shooting from the ground, the grassy knoll being established as the best vantage point. So they travel in time and get a washed up and very much unassassinated JFK to travel back in time and shoot the bullet which will kill him but make him a legend.
Assassinate myself? Yeah, it'll drive the conspiracy nuts crazy, but they'll never figure it out.
The series took a massive quality dip after this episode, and, in my opinion, it has never recovered.
Jack, no offense, but President Kennedy was a white man.
That's how clever they are. They dyed me this color, all over. Can you think of a better way to hide the truth than that?
This is Bubba Ho-Tep, in which Ossie Davis might be John F. Kennedy, but Bruce Campbell most definitely is Elvis, although everyone thinks he's the #1 Elvis impersonator, Sebastian Haff. They're stuck in a nursing home which is being terrorised by a Texan mummy who kills the residents by night.
Elvis hadn't been out of his room in ages, and he hadn't been out of his bed much either. But tonight, after successfully electrocuting that scarab beetle, he felt invigorated. Besides, he hadn't pissed his bed either. And following the sound gave him something to do.
Oh, sweet Jesus.
He wasn't invigorated now. Thinking about how invigorated he was, it bushed him. Still, going back to his room to lie in his bed and wait for morning so he could wait for noon, then afternoon and night didn't appeal to him. He headed for Jack McLaughlin's room, a fellow who was convinced he was John F. Kennedy, convinced his brain was in the White House running on batteries. Elvis knew full well that Jack might not want to see him. Sometimes Jack accepted Elvis as the real Elvis, and when he did, he got scared, saying it was Elvis who had been behind the assassination. Actually, Elvis hoped he felt that way tonight. It would at least be some acknowledgement that he was who he was, even if the acknowledgement was a fearful shriek from a certifiable nut.
Of course, maybe I'm nuts too. I don't know, man. Maybe I am Sebastian Haff and I fell off that stage and broke more than my hip. Maybe cracked some part of my brain that lost my old self and made me think I'm Elvis.
Nah, he couldn't believe that. That's the way they wanted him to think. They wanted him to believe he was nuts and he wasn't Elvis. Just some sad old fart who had once lived out some part of another man's life because he had none of his own. He wouldn't accept that.
I'm not Sebastian Haff. I'm Elvis goddamn Aaron fucking Presley. And if you don't believe it, you can kiss my wrinkled keister.
Of course, he believed that. Maybe he had to believe Jack was John F. Kennedy. Then again, maybe not. They were kind of scanty on evidence. He at least looked like Elvis gone old and sick.
What you have just watched there is actually a deleted scene, but one I thought sets up the movie very well. It's funny, it's silly, it's over the top, but actually it has a lot of heart too. And you can't help but root for these two old men who could either be saving the day or utterly delusional.
Were you awake, or were you in bed when you heard this noise?
Well, look, man, I was in bed first, and then I was awake because the damn bugs woke me up, all right? You got bugs all over this place.
Bugs? Well, Mr. Haff, what kind of bugs have you been seeing?
Well, look, man, do I look like an ichthyologist to you? It's big damn bugs, all right? The size of my fist, size of a peanut butter banana sandwich, man. What do I care? I got a growth on my picker.
Out of all the films and TV shows featured in this video, I think I enjoy this one the most. Not that I've seen every JFK-related show. I don't even think there's enough time in the world for one person to do that.
So Parkland is another and a late addition to the absolutely staggering amount of movies, documentaries and dramas about the assassination of JFK. A kaleidoscopic look at the events surrounding the assassination of John F. Kennedy as seen through the eyes of the First Lady Jackie Kennedy, played by Natalie Portman.
Sharpshooter.
It's very hard to know. I mean, what else is there to say about this as a historical event? It has been turned over in so many ways. As I said, there's loads and loads of documentaries. In fact, there's a documentary called Killing Oswald, which is out this week as well.
The assassination attempt on the president. What do you know about it? Nothing.
Do we see this movie, or would you go back and watch your Oliver Stone movie?
Well, I mean,
with his cack-handed theories.
I saw, the cack-handed theories. The cack-handed theories, which of course are then expanded upon in Nixon, in which basically a whole thing ends up to be something which was put in place and then went out of control and then came back and blah 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 blah.
For me, it was a challenge.
Yeah.
Same thing with the JFK murder. I mean, it was so gnarly.
That one's extra complex, right? Because you took some liberties there to try to move the plot along.
Yeah, but liberties in the spirit of the. I didn't violate the truth that I saw in this. I mean, I had to combine characters and so forth.
That is a complex story.
It is a complex story and one I doubt we'll ever get to the bottom of. The recent release of the files surrounding the president's death have ignited interest in the story again. Oliver Stone himself making a documentary called JFK Revisited Through the Looking Glass, in which he re-examines the evidence, or lack thereof.
In the years since the Warren Report, there is now so much more that we know. Conspiracy theories are now conspiracy facts.
The Warren Commission successfully deceived the public.
Alan Dulles' appointment to the Warren Commission is one of the great frauds of American history.
Documents are withheld by the FBI, the CIA.
Intelligence agencies did all the wrong things if they were looking for conspiracy.
We will go back and piece together new facts and evidence that shed more light on what really happened here that day.
Personally, I am yet to be convinced of this conspiracy, but I can appreciate the storytelling it has inspired and continues to inspire.
You know, I don't know what y'all believe, and I don't really care. But you have to admit, beliefs are odd. A lot of Christians wear crosses around their necks. You think when Jesus comes back, he ever wants to see a fucking cross? Kind of like going up to Jackie Onassis with a little sniper rifle pendant, you know. Hey, Jackie, just thinking of John. We loved him. We loved him. He's great.
That just about concludes this video. A big thank you goes out to Squabblebox for asking me to make this short essay. I have my own YouTube channel, it's called I'm Making a Movie. If you've enjoyed this, why not check out my latest videos? I've got one about the McCarthy era witch hunt and the most controversial uncontroversial film, The Sound of Freedom. Hopefully our paths will cross again. I'm Scott Kingsnorth, and I'm making a movie.
We've now had some of these files released, but things have been redacted. There's still files that they're holding back, and if he was the lone gunman, what are you hiding?